say to people that watch us live on the internet, good afternoon. And as usual, I am glad to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. Today, we're going to get right to the lesson, sisters and brothers. This lesson is titled Sodomy. You know, because of all the hoopla that's going on with sodomy and homosexuality and same-sex marriage and all this, you think I did this lesson for that. No, this lesson is as old as I am. But the whole thing is, this, like everything else, have to be taught, sisters and brothers. Because when you look at things going on right now, everybody's trying to lean toward, well, it's all right. Or either you have certain rights. I don't question none of that. I don't even get off into my opinion on who have a right to do what. But what I am is a preacher. And what preachers do is they present God's side to everything. So we're going to have a look at this sodomy, sisters and brothers. But it's one thing I say, that the reason things look the way they are, and the reason you have people running around saying that same-sex marriage is okay, is because the people have not been taught the Bible. I lay this at the feet of the ministers, because if the people don't know and understand the consequences of certain behavior, they don't even try and deal with it. But once you let people know what's supposed to go on and what the Lord said, then at least they have a chance to make their own choice. I want you to understand one thing. I don't condemn or uphold. I just preach the gospel. It's all that simple. And I do what the Lord wants me to do and want all of his shepherds to do, is just tell the people what's wrong and the consequences of committing it. And this is one thing that the Lord told all of his watchmen. Let's go into Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter. Because the Lord left this message to all men that would take up the mountain that I take up, and that is a watchman. If you will be a watchman, then you have one job, and this is your most important job. Is let the people know who they're dealing with. Because the average person don't have a clue who they're dealing with and the consequences of crossing it. Because people don't know about God. That's why the Lord caused me to put a lesson together years ago that was called Jesus the Unknown God. People don't have a clue who he is. They don't have a clue who the God of this Bible is. They don't even understand that Jesus is the God of the Old Testament as well as the God of the New Testament. But this is one thing the Lord told his watchmen to do. We're going to start this Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter, and start at verse 17. Ezekiel 3 and verse 17. Okay, read it.
Son of man,
I
have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel.
Go ahead.
Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them ear from me.
Now give them warning from me. Look, sisters and brothers, the Lord said, look, I want you to listen to what I got to say. And I want you to go out there and you give those people a warning from me. Because people don't understand. I don't care how nice you think God is. This is the guy that drowned the whole world. Warn them people from me. Because if you don't warn them, this is what's going to happen. Go ahead and read.
When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou giveth him not warning, nor speaketh to warn the wicked from his wicked ways, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand.
He said, now when I tell the wicked, you're going to die for your sin or committing wickedness, and if you don't warn the wicked that he's going to die, they're going to die in their sins, but it's going to be on you. That's why I tell people all the time, you don't want to be no preacher, because as long as you are just an individual, you're responsible for yourself. But when you pick up the mantle as a minister or a watchman, then you're responsible for everybody that listens to you. Anybody in their right mind wouldn't want to be no shepherd. I'm going to tell you like it is. Because if I give y'all some misinformation and you live by this information and that information gets you in trouble with God and you die in it, I got to pay for that. He said, so you warn them. If you warn them and they don't do right, they're going to die in their sin, but it's on them. But go ahead and read.
Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul.
So now if you warn him, and he still won't take heed and die in the wickedness, hey, he's going to die in it, but you have delivered yourself. And this is what people got to understand. If you're going to get up and you're going to talk what thus said the Lord, it would behoove you to talk what thus said the Lord. All of it. I don't care how ugly it can be sometimes. But it's not ugly. It's just the truth. Now, we're going to look at this. Let's go into Genesis, the 13th chapter. Because when you're dealing with Sodom, and sisters and brothers, the place you have to start is with Sodom and Gomorrah. And we're going to deal in Genesis, the 13th chapter, to let you know that these things are here and nobody ever talks about it. I mean, nobody. I asked the question this morning. You know, we had close to 500 people here. So give me a show of hand that anybody that's had any kind of lesson out of the Bible on sodomy or homosexuality. Didn't get one hand. Because the church you come out speaks love and peace and prosperity. But they don't understand. If you don't have the truth, you don't have no peace. And prosperity means nothing because you can die and leave that. Genesis 13 and 1. We're going to look into one into Sodom and Gomorrah because this is where the Lord did a great killing because of this misbehavior. Verse 1, go ahead.
And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south.
Go ahead.
And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. See,
now Abram, which became Abraham, went out into Egypt, and he acted like his wife was his sister. And when the Egyptian Pharaoh found out he wasn't his sister, he gave Abraham a lot of stuff. Abraham was collecting stuff like that. So he come out rich, but he didn't come out rich by himself. Skip down to verse 5 and go ahead.
And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herd and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great.
Now, neither one of these guys, at least both of these guys, rather, was rich. And they both had to separate from one another because they couldn't dwell together. They herdsmen and they servants started to fight and dispute with one another. So Abraham said, look, we got to split. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly.
Now Abraham told Lot, pick any part of the land you want, and whatever's left, I'll go the other way. So Lot picked the land that's close to Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham went someplace else. But it said that the men of Lot were exceedingly wicked in the eyes of God. That's the one that we're concerned about. Whose eyes are they wicked in? Some might be wicked in my eyes, but it don't necessarily have to be. That's my opinion. But if you're wicked in the eyes of God, you got your problem. I mean a real problem, because when you're wicked in his eyes, he's going to check you out. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward.
So now the Lord told him, and wherever that is, that belonged to you. But we're not interested in that. Skip down to verse 18, because Abraham removed and went to where he wanted to be. Go ahead and read.
Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord.
Now, Abram's sitting there in Mamre. He has settled down. Then all of a sudden, the Lord shows up. Let's go in the 14th chapter of Genesis. Genesis, the 14th chapter. And let's start, Genesis, the 18th chapter. And let's show you where the Lord showed up, and Abram's sitting there, and he knew who he was. 18 and 1. Genesis 18 and 1. 18 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground.
Now, Abraham knew who these guys were. It was the Lord and 2 of his angels. So that lets you know That Sodom and Gomorrah must have been a real ugly thing because the Lord himself, usually he just sent the angels down there to check it out. But he came with them angels because he said, I want to see this. Go ahead and read.
And said, my Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away. I pray thee from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray ye, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree.
Ain't that something? This guy saying that to the Lord and two angels, like they can get tired. But they played along with it. Go ahead and read.
And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on.
Go ahead.
For therefore are ye come to your servants. And they said, so do, as thou hast said.
Okay, go ahead. We're going to go along with it. Go ahead and read.
And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal. Kneal it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man. And he hasted to dress it.
Go ahead.
And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat.
Now that lets you know that God can do anything. Angels can do. They say, well, do angels have to eat and God have to eat? Who knows? Who cares? We know if he decides, he can. And the big thing is how he showed up. He's sitting in the tent. All of a sudden, he sees 3 guys there. Because the Lord can do stuff like this. So he came, and he suffered with Abraham to go through this, is because he got something on his mind. What verse was that? Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16, and go ahead.
And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way.
Now, these guys, I guess God, he didn't have to talk to them. We let him know, now you go on down there and do what I got to do. Because he knew Abraham was going to walk and try to talk him out of this. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him.
Now, the Lord is thinking now, shall I hide it from this guy? This guy is going to be a great nation. And all of the nations of the earth are going to be blessed in him. How? Because he's going to bring Jesus through the seed of Abraham. And he told him, out of thee, in thee shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So shall I hide him? That's what happened when you're a servant of God. He don't hide stuff from him. I'm going to let him know what's going on. Go ahead and read.
19. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him. And they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him.
So he said, I know this guy. He's going to guide his house right. So I'm going to level with him. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. And if not, I will know.
Now this is the Lord talking here. He said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I decided I'm going to come down here myself and have a look at this, and to see if it is what it looks like. Then I will know. But that is, and nowadays they take this act of sodomy and homosexuality, just, hey, that ain't nothing. I'm going to tell you something, sisters and brothers. If the Lord left heaven with 2 of his angels to check it out, I'd be real careful about writing it off as nothing. I just want to make that point, sisters and brothers. Because man have made, you can make anything nothing if you want to do it. What verse are we?
We're at 22.
Go ahead.
And the men turned their face from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein?
He said, look, he tell you, will you kill the righteous with the wicked? What if there 50 people in there? What the Lord said. Go ahead.
That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked.
Go ahead.
That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?
But you notice Abraham has some nerve. You think God would say something like that to God? To a guy that shows up that's through with 2 guys with him out of nowhere? He has some nerve. He said, will the judge of the whole earth do wicked? Is this right? But that shows you that God is a merciful God. And if you know that you are really, really serious, you can get away with things with him that you can't get away with me. Because he can read your mind. He know Abraham was really concerned. Next verse, go
26.
ahead.
And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes.
He said, okay, if I find 50, I'll spare the whole place. I'll let everybody live. So Abraham got to bargaining with God now. He started playing with numbers. So skip down to verse 32. Verse 32. Verse 32. And go ahead.
And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once.
Now he worried about the Lord getting angry now. Because he know he been pushing the Lord. He said, I'm going to say this one time, but I ain't going to say nothing else. Go ahead and read.
Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake.
He said, now, okay then. I won't destroy them for 10's sake. Now, he let Abraham really, what they call, Jew him down. He said, but I will not destroy them for 10's sake. Don't you know he couldn't find 10 in the whole place, sister? What verse was that?
That was 32.
Go ahead and read.
And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham. And Abraham turned unto his place.
So now the Lord went on about his business to take care of the business that went down there to take care of. But Abraham then bargained with the Lord and said, look, got him from 50 down to 10. If you can just find 10 people in Sodom and Gomorrah and all the little sister cities around, I'll spare them all. He couldn't find 10, sisters and brothers. Let's go into Genesis, the 19th chapter. He couldn't even find 10. That is a bad epithet, isn't it? You can't find 10. And the reason I know is because the Lord said he was spared for 10 and he didn't spare. And we're going to show you why he didn't spare. 19:1. Go ahead and read.
And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night.
Now Lot saw him too, and he recognized what, but the Lord apparently just cut it off. He probably gone on back to heaven. I done seen enough now. And he sent them 2 angels, and Lot met them 2 angels, and he bowed down to them, and he invited them into his house. But what did the angels say? Go ahead and read.
And wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night.
I said, no, you don't want to do that, not here in Sodom and Gomorrah. Go ahead and read.
And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat.
Now, so Lot fed them, but he said he pressed upon them greatly, because Lot knew they couldn't stay in the streets. And now they're going to find out why they couldn't stay in the streets. Go ahead and read.
But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter.
Ain't that something? All of a sudden, all the men, old and young, from every quarter come and they surrounded Lot's house. Let's see what they wanted. Go ahead and read.
And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them.
Go ahead. Now,
and
you know what know them mean in this situation? Where are the men that came to your house? Bring them out that we might lay with them. That's what they wanted to do, sisters and brothers. They don't want to say, we're going to see if I know y'all. Bring them out that we might lay with them. Go ahead and read.
And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray ye, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. Now this guy went out and said, look, man, this is an abominable thing. This is so ugly in the eyes of Lot that he would give up his 2 virgin daughters to all of these men out there that want to deal with me. But they wouldn't listen to that. Go ahead and read. 9. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them.
Ain't that something? Then you didn't come in our country. You're a stranger here. And now you going to judge us? That's what people tell you when you tell them they're wrong. Oh, you going to judge me? You can't judge me. He just told you that this was wicked. Just like when you see somebody doing something wrong, you tell them this is wicked. You ain't judging them. You calling it the way it is. But when you do that, now they mad at you. I was going to do something to them, but now I'm going to do it to you. Go ahead and read.
And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door.
Go ahead.
But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. Now
this guy was going to break. Now listen, we're going to deal worse with you. They're going to break Lot's door down. And they're going to deal with these men and Lot now. Ain't nobody said nothing about the women. They said, we're going to deal worse with you, didn't they? So these guys brushed their hand and pulled Lot them in the house, and these angels blinded these guys. Go ahead and read.
12. And the man said unto Lot, hast there here any besides son-in-laws, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord has sent us to destroy it.
And that's what they did, sister and brother. Said, look, you got any sons and daughters? Son-in-law and daughter-in-law, you better go and tell her. But he didn't, whoever it was, he didn't have that many. They didn't listen. Go ahead and read.
And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, up, get ye out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seems as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law.
Go ahead.
And when the morning arose, when the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city.
So now, early morning, the angels said, come on, let's get out of here. Because his son-in-law didn't believe it. Because they thought, hey, man, you mocking us. Like when you tell people, you know the Lord's going to burn you in the lake of fire. Oh, man, so you believe that. I don't believe that. Okay, that's all right. I tell you one thing. If I am wrong when I die, I'm just going to be dead. But if I'm right and I'm wrong, I got to deal with that fire. You see what I'm saying? Or you got to deal with the fire. This is what I tell people all the time. Like people ask me years ago in Washington Park, brother, what if you wrong? I said, so I'm dead. Big deal. But what if I'm right? You got your problem. So the angel told Lot to him, get on out of here. And Lot was slow on doing it. Go ahead and read.
16. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hands, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth and set him without the city.
So they had to grab Lot and bring him out of the city because Lot is still lingering. You know, you got a couple of daughters there with some husbands there. And you still wondering, but sometime when the Lord wants you to move, you got to move on your own because you're the only one that can save you. You can't save your children. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plains. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed.
He said, I don't want you to be nowhere in this area. And don't look behind. But Lot's wife looked behind. Because sometimes we come from where we used to be, and we keep having relapses. You know, I wish I could have. Lord, don't brook that. If you left there, then you don't go back there, not even in your head. She looked behind, and the Lord turned her to a pillar of salt. But we ain't dealing with that today. Skip down to verse 24 and go ahead.
Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground.
So the Lord destroyed everything. He couldn't even find 10 people that were straight in Sodom and Gomorrah and all the little cities around it. He even destroyed the plain, the grass, everything. Why is it? You mean the whole city was infected? Sisters and brothers, I'm going to tell you something about wrongdoing. If you do wrong and everybody go along with it, after a while it just festers and gets worse and worse and worse. It's just like having, well, you just all right, you know, you let the Sodomites or the homosexual, hey, let them go on, that's their right. Ain't got no problem with that. Ain't got nothing to do with it. And then your daughter going to show up with another girl. Oh, this is my friend. Or your son going to show up with a brother. Well, you know, we've been kicking it for a long, wait a minute. I ain't going to have it. Yeah, you will have it, because once you allowed it without teaching your children the wrong in it, they thought it was right. One thing about wrong, if everybody do it, they think it's right. But I always like to deal with absolute, sisters and brothers. One cow run off a cliff and hit the ground, he going to be dead. So if the whole herd said, we can't, we have come to a unanimous decision. We're going to run off the cliff, all of us at one time, and it will be right. But when they hit the ground, what will they be? Dead. Numbers don't make right, sisters and brothers. Only right make right. So what happened here is that a whole two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, and all the little bitty cities around was infected because nobody stood for right. Nobody stood in the gap and said, hey, this is wrong. Remember, the guys, how many people showed up around Lot's house to get these guys? Said all the males showed up. It takes some real effort for a whole city to get that corrupt. And it got there, sisters and brothers. But the Lord put that there, and he showed us what he did to them, so we will know that he don't tolerate that. Let's go into the book of Jude. That's a little bitty book next to Revelation. Book of Jude. Because, sisters and brothers, the Lord put all this good stuff here for us to understand. That's why this book is so big. And nobody reads it. You go to church all your life, and all you ever hear are good stories. Nice, beautiful stories. Lord love everybody. That's why every time somebody said, the Lord love everybody, I ask them then, why is it that he made the lake of fire then? What kind of love is it when you read Revelation said the book was open, and everybody was judged, and the book of life was open, and everybody was judged according to their works. And whosoever was not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. What kind of love is that? I don't need that kind of love. You understand what I'm saying? So much for that. Jude. We're going to start at third verse. You don't have but one chapter. Jude 3. Go ahead and read.
Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation.
Of what salvation?
Common salvation.
Common salvation. You mean salvation ain't special? You ain't highly blessed and, what do they call it? How do they, I missed that.
Blessed and highly favored.
You ain't blessed and highly favored? No, it's common salvation. Lord, I got to train on my way to salvation. If you want to get on it, these are the rules you got to follow and get on it. He ain't going to grab you and do that Lot thing. He only did that anyway because of Abraham. But the whole thing, he said, no, I'll speak to you of the common salvation. Go ahead and read.
It was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints.
Look, he is letting you know that I had to write to you to let you know that you have to contend. In other words, you got to defend the faith that you have in your God. You just can't go along with this here. I'm going to be quiet because we're going to show you some examples of going along with something. You have to defend the faith. That means you got to contend for it. Because if the servant don't contend for it, don't stand up for it, who is? Skip down to verse 5. Verse 5 and go ahead.
I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not.
He said, look, you got to defend your belief. I'm going to remind you, the Lord brought every Israelite, didn't leave one Israelite in Egypt, not one. But didn't one from 20 years old and older get into the promised land. He killed every one of them in the wilderness. You know why? Because they didn't keep the faith. He said, I want to let you know that. Go ahead and read.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day.
Now, and even the angels that rebel, that are throughout of heaven, I have them preserved under chains of darkness. In other words, I got them so you can't see them, but they around here. Could be some in here trying to figure out who they can pick up. He said, but I got them preserved under everlasting chains of darkness, under darkness for judgment. Go ahead and read.
7. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
He said, them like Sodom and Gomorrah, going, committing fornication. Because I teach the law, sisters and brothers, all of it. And giving themselves over to all kind of sins and going after strange flesh. You know what strange flesh is? And when a woman go for a woman and a man go for a man. That's strange flesh. He said, what I did to them, I gave it so you would have an example of what happened to people that do this. This is an example. You know what? When somebody give you an example, what are they telling you? If you do the same thing, this is what's going to happen to you. But ain't nobody dealing with the example. You know why? Because nobody read the word no more. Sister, I ain't got to take that back. They just don't read it. That's like I say all the time. I used to say, well, these people are backslid. No, you can't. You have to know something to backslide from something. All of us has come out of somebody's church. Nobody taught this kind of stuff to you. You probably wouldn't want to hear it. I come here to feel good. I want to feel the Holy Ghost. I want to be able to jump up and down and vibrate in my seat. I don't want to hear this old hard stuff. But I'm going to tell you, this is what's going to save you. Because when it comes to this, sister and brother, the Lord said, this is an example. What I did to Sodom and Gomorrah is an example. What I do to anybody that breaks the law, it is an example. And we're going to give you some more examples because the Lord had it written here because he wants you to know what's going on. So you won't commit the same atrocity and get caught up with the same punishment. Because he is not a respecter of persons, sisters and brothers. Let's go into the book of Judges. Because every time somebody went there with this foolishness, somebody suffered. Judges the 19th chapter. Judges the 19th chapter. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. Judges chapter 19 and verse 1. Because here, sisters and brothers, man had a priest had a concubine, and she messed up and ran off, so he went and got her. But we're going to look at what happened during this time. 19 and 1. Go ahead.
And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levi sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. See, the
Lord had not even appointed a first king of Israel at this time. Judges used to run Israel, mostly prophets and priests. But that was before Saul, the first king. So this man took him a concubine out of Bethlehem of Judah, and what did she do? Go ahead and read.
And his concubine played the whore against him.
That means she went out and laid with somebody else. And then ran. Go ahead and read.
And went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months.
Go ahead.
And her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him, and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him.
Now, this cat obviously loved this woman. So he went to talk softly to her, I guess make her some better promises. Even her father was glad for him to come, because usually when you have a daughter that can act stupid like that and you see a man that's really in her corner, you glad of it. So he wanted to try and get this thing done, because that ain't all the time. Go ahead and read.
And his father-in-law, the damsel's father, retained him, and he abode with him 3 days. So they did eat and drink and lodge there.
And every time he asked him to stay a little longer and a little longer and a little longer, but eventually the man said, look, I got to go back. Skip down to verse 10. And he left. Verse 10. Go ahead.
But the man would not tarry that night, But he rose up and departed and came over against Gibeah, which is Jerusalem. And there were with him 2 asses saddled. His concubine also was with him.
Go ahead.
And when they were by Gibeah, the day was far spent. And the servant said unto his master, Come, I pray thee, and let us turn into this city of the Jebusites, and lodge in it.
Now he wanted to turn his servants. Let's turn into this Jebusite. These are strangers, not Israelites, and let's lodge there. But no, this guy, I don't want to do that. These are strangers. Go ahead and read.
And his master said unto him, We will not turn aside hither into the city of a stranger that is not of the children of Israel.
Boy, he should go ahead.
We will pass over to Gibeah.
He should have listened to his servant, because being your same people don't mean nothing. He said, we're going to pass over. So we're going to go Gibeah. We ain't going to stay among these strangers. I'm going to go among my people. He should have stayed with the stranger. Skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
And they turned aside hither to go in and to lodge in Gibeah. And when he went in, he set him down in the street of the city. For there was no man that took him into the house to lodge him.
So when he went, he sat out in the streets. But an old man came along and said, No, partner, you don't want to stay in the streets of Benjamin. We're going to show you this. Go ahead and read.
And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at even, which was also of Mount Ephraim. And he had sojourned in Gibeah, but the men of the place were Benjamites.
Now, he came, and he had came from the same place as Priestman came, but they was in one of the cities of Benjamin. And this man said, Well, look, I'll take y'all in. It's obvious that man said, Okay, we can pay our way. No, I'll take y'all in. I will be responsible for everything. All you got to do is don't live in these streets. Skip down to verse 20. Now I'm going to show you. Verse 20. Go ahead.
And the old man said, Peace be with thee. Howsoever, let all thy wants lie upon me.
Go ahead.
Only lodge not in the street.
He said, I'll take care of whatever you need to take care of, but don't stay in the streets. And we're going to find out why. Go ahead and read.
So he brought him into his house and gave provender unto the asses, and they washed their feet and did eat and drink. And as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house. The old man saying, Bring forth the man. The old man saying, Bring forth the man that came in unto thine house, that we may know him.
There it is again. While they was in there eating and drinking and carrying on, they didn't say nothing about this guy's wife. They surrounded the city and said, Bring forth the man that we saw coming in, that we may know him. In other words, we want to lay with him. I'm just letting you know that this ain't nothing new. And God been here in every generation to see this. So what happened? Go ahead and read.
23. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them and said unto them, Nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house. Do not this folly.
See, it's the same thing. Didn't Lot say the same thing? But let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden.
Here's my daughter, a maiden. This woman ain't never had a man. Go ahead and read.
And his concubine.
And his concubine.
Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing.
So this man offered his virgin daughter and this priest's wife. But I'm going to show you how the Lord take care of things. The Lord don't ever punish the innocent sisters and brothers. This man's wife was guilty of fooling around. But this man's daughter wasn't guilty of nothing. And she survived this thing. In fact, she never went out. Look what happened. Go ahead and read.
But the man would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine and brought her forth unto them. And they knew her and abused her all the night until the morning.
Ain't that something? Didn't take the old man's daughter, which was a maiden. I'm just showing you how the Lord protects the innocent. But this woman, hey, she hadn't run off, probably was going to do it again. So he sent her out there, and they took this woman, and they abused her all night. You know, these people are Sodomite, men like men, so what kind of respect they got for women? You understand? They ain't no telling what they didn't do to this woman. But whatever it did, It killed her. Go ahead and read. What verse?
We're in the middle of 25.
Go ahead.
And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day and fell down at the door of the man's house where her Lord was till it was light. And her Lord rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hand was upon the threshold.
Ain't that something? They abused this woman, and when they let her go, further she could get was to the threshold of this old man's house. When they opened the door, she's laying there with her hand on the threshold because these Sodomites had really did her in. But this guy here, he did something too. He was upset about that. And let's see what he did. Go ahead and read.
28. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her up upon an ass, and the man rose up and got him into his place.
Now what he did, he told her, get on up, let's go. But she didn't, because she was dead. So he put her on his donkey and went on back home. Go ahead and read.
And when he was coming to his house, he took a knife and laid hold on his concubine and divided her together with her bones into 12 pieces and sent her into all the coast of Israel.
Let's show you how upset it was. These people done took his concubine and they done abused her all night, these Sodomites. Because it's obvious they didn't want no woman, so they took a vengeance down on her. He cut them up in 12 pieces because he wanted to get the nation of Israel. Remember, they didn't have no king. So he sent one of these pieces to each one of the tribes. Go ahead and read.
And it was so that all that saw it said, there was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your minds.
So these guys got to talking, and they said, hey, we got to deal with these Benjamites.